All right, so this is how we're testing it, and we're just checking it out. Let's check on our repo manager. So unregistered directories. Okay. So I have anti-gravity open, which is I have uh, ChatGPT Pro, but watch this. Ask DeepThink what we should do next. So it's very almost impossible to get DeepThink in your IDE. Um, you have to have a special script that overrides the default app, and you'll see here, right? It'll execute against the UniGrok MCP, and so you can see that it's doing working. It's not printing a bunch of stuff. It's thinking. So I have a thing in here that makes it be quiet and stop wasting a bunch of tokens explaining every little command it runs. Sub agents, bam. Okay, let's see how it's going. Working. It's running DeepThink. Oh no, it's searching for DeepThink. Found the agent config. Of course, got to allow. You'll be surprised how amazing DeepThink is. So when you're talking to Gemini Pro, you can get Grok's opinion on anything, and Grok has a bunch of tools, and one of those tools is to be able to query DeepThink with your anti-gravity subscription. Now, also you could put your Gemini or Vertex key in your .env file, and that way the Grok MCP server can access both your Vertex and your see right here. It's using the UniGrok Forge, which is a special API just for the developers, but there's a standard one that's used for the public where it doesn't utilize any information. But it shows you the JSON of what it's sending to UniGrok, but it's sending it to UniGrok with the ability to check with DeepThink. So all I did was ask, oh, I didn't even spell it right, and it's still working, so that's pretty awesome. Let's see how it goes. Well, why that's going, I'll show you over here. Over here is where I have the main Grok, and it is doing this planning stuff, and then it tells me, okay, for Codex over here, tell it to do this, right? And then for Gemini, that's what Gemini is doing right now, is this number 2. Then after Gemini deletes its own, trash work trees and all that. I'm gonna test the Kimi K2, and then let's see. Yeah, ChatGPT's done, so it pushed everything to the correct work tree. And let's go back to Gemini and see. Oh, there's the output of DeepThink. So the MCP puts just a text output, and that way the LLM can, in this case, Gemini can think, go back and reference it, send it to other agents. I have my Claude Code Max and my Claude Code API. I have my Gemini Max or my Gemini Ultra and my. Let's see. All right, hydraulic. Okay, let's see what it said though. All right, so it did check the DeepThink. It gave me my bad spelling back. So it's got the hydration service, implementation plan, user review required. So I'm going to go ahead and hit proceed. And so now Gemini is going to go ahead and finish the task. Now, when this is done, of course, test semantic evals, hydration. Let's see. Fill screen. All right, there we go. Wonder why that's so far over. Well, let's just do that. All right. So it's thinking. It's going to execute this. It's going to test the session control. So for instance, if I'm talking to it in this session, because it's using the same API, or just so you know right here, when you install it, you get, if you're part of the contributor group, you get the Grok MCP dev server, but the regular server is for the public. This one has high security, no ability to accept any kind of credentials or anything. But since it's running in Docker, all my other apps can access it. So I have Cursor Max or Ultra Plan. I have the Claude Code Max Ultra, or what is it called? Yeah, Max. And then of course the Copilot Extreme, or whatever it's called. And then Gemini Ultra. So the advantage to that is, as you're doing all your dev work, you can put in all your subscriptions and tie them all to one, and it will always use your subscription plan first, and it will only fail over to your API if your subscription plan fails. So like for instance, a lot of people get blocked by Claude after a while. So then if you have your Claude API key, it'll just switch over to using the API key. The API is a lot more cheaper than using the so-called extra credits that they give you or that you can buy. They hardly get through anything. One of the cool things about ChatGPT is you can set a goal and it will continuously loop and check and check and check. So in this case, it's saying, continuously act as a GitHub integration admin. But if we go over here to Cursor, Cursor has the agents both locally and in the cloud. And so in this case, it's saying the MCP is not secured. Oh, I mean, it's not set up yet because I just installed Cursor. But yeah, then I have SuperGrok. And SuperGrok lets you, like I'll show you. So you get SuperGrok Heavy. See that? Boom. And yep. So that's about it. And I'll keep checking on this stuff. So it's reducing the quarantine to 2 directories. Okay. Let's see the progress here. The other really cool thing is this has a physics-based mathematical code optimizer. And so you can say optimize this Python. It only works on Python. But you can say optimize this Python and it will run a swarm in the background of, let's say, 10,000 attempts to break apart the Python and reconstruct it in the shortest, fastest manner. So it then tests every single one of the, let's say, 10,000 variations, then gives you back the Python that has the highest score for reducing the size, reducing the memory usage, and increasing the speed. All right, so it's running the test hydration now. And the hydration is related to, because I have all these different ages, there's probably over 100 different models in there. And so it has an agentic DPO, or it's basically a Walrus Pareto algorithm. And basically it records the action chain of what's successful and what's not successful in a list of about 10 to 12 keywords, and then gives a mathematical formula. It saves it to the Git DAG though as notes. So any other agent that crawls that particular file, it knows the history and knows what went wrong and what went right the last time anyone touched that file or edited that file. And so then you don't have to have like an expensive message bus or a pub sub or some kind of queue in the background. You don't have to worry about all that. Oh, okay, so the walkthrough. So it says it's implemented this. It refactored its own hooks. Verification and testing. So we're gonna go over here and we're gonna see that it's running in a loop, but it says, okay, first it checked, it's not live, but it's still actively editing. So it's waiting. Oh, since we just saw Gemini update, now, boom, not live, but it's still testing. Let's see. Yep. All right. So it's going through and doing the in the cloud. It's triggering the Copilot reviews. So a Copilot will come along and say what's wrong with that PR, that and what's wrong with the code or whatever, and then Codex gets that information back, adjusts it, fixes it, and pushes it all the way to merge. So it has about a 4 or 5 agent step for validating all the tests. So it runs about, let's see how many tests it run. Let's see, verification testing, so the by test. So it did 24 assertions. But the typical, this repo has about 2,200 automatic UV pi tests that it runs. Here we go. Let's see. Uh-oh. Yeah, 2,000 tests right here. So I went through the walkthrough. Let's see, did it push? Anti-gravity has fully finished before moving its stable edits off the protected main. What does that mean? Okay. So a lot of times Gemini messes up when it comes to Git. And so you have to have other LLMs that have different training, different ways of thinking to be able to, really not have a sort of vibe coding, problem where it goes out of control and all of a sudden you have thousands of files and, a lot of bugs start coming up and stuff. So, and at any time we can go to one of the other ones. So Claude Code and then Claude Work. So if we just go here to Claude Code and go to its hydrate, so we can tell, I'm using Opus right now because I ran out, used up all my Fable credits, but so you just tell it hydrate. Now it's gonna go check the repo. It's gonna read the Git native Git DAG notes, and then it's in a graph of graph structure. So if you've heard of open knowledge format, it's a graph structure for holding knowledge. So in the back end, the MCP has the whole has a dynamic wiki generator in open knowledge format spec, and that way the MCP can answer any questions about the code just through a simple crawler instead of always having to do a grep on your, or a regex search on your files. And you can see it has this format. So the first thing it does is it gives you kind of like, a field and some values, right? So you can tell that that's kind of in that graph format. And so it's saying everything is green and idle, blah, blah, blah. It's doing this. The other ones are doing that. It still needs to update its Claude MD folder. And we go over here and we can do it again. So this one, so this one is Cursor Grok 4.5 fast. Now over here, this is Grok 4.5 high. So you can get Grok from both SuperGrok subscription and your XAI API key, but then you can also subscribe to Cursor and you actually get double the credits right now. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but I got double the credits, so that was awesome. So I'm gonna ask it to hydrate and see. It's reading. It's reading everything. Let's go check on Gemini. So Gemini, yeah, thinks it's done. Does ChatGPT think it's done? Oh, it found concurrency, singleton store, retry, documentation, regressions, and the Gemini handoff. But instead of it rejecting the PR, you just tell it to, if one of the other agents messes up, you fix it instead of rejecting it and telling it why, because that ends up using a lot of tokens. So just the fact that it had to read the PR anyways, you might as well just have it repair it on the spot. And so you can see it has a lot of the routines in there for evacuating the old Git trees, reviewing the exact diffs, pushing the draft PR, reconciling the head of the Git repo, and then verified local runtime, cloud runtime, and security and continuity. So yeah, it's a way to use all of your LLMs together in one kind of system, and use your max subscriptions for each one as your primary go-to, and then in your .env you can put all your other API keys as well. So it checks your local auth. So it looks for the auth files, right? So when you log into Claude or log into whatever, it says log in with your ChatGPT, or log in with your Claude, or log in with your Gemini, and then it stores credentials on your machine. Well, the MCP is able to look at those credentials and then also check your .env file and see if you have any API keys. So if you, no matter which one you have, it figures out which one you have, or if you have both, and then fully utilizes it. So yeah, shared session between IDEs, shared session between all the different models within each carrier. I mean, obviously, like in these ones, you can change to Sonnet, but we're in anti-gravity, right? So you have to have the anti-gravity SDK mapped out inside of your code. That's what that's one of the things the MCP does. Same thing here. You know, if you want to use your subscription key, it has to find that auth instead of just an API key. And if you don't know the difference between API key and authorization, it just means, you know, one is a local one where you say you charge $200 per month, and they give you so many credits instead of charging you per API call or per credit. Yeah, so that's the basics. Let's go ahead and check on ChatGPT. So ChatGPT says it's not live yet. Codex is repairing the evacuation hydration lane before any push or promotion, right? So it has all these really good steps, security steps, and all those kind of things. And then if you go to the repo, you can see all the pull requests, you can see all the agents, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, if you look at the README, you can see we have this really cool little animation, but then it breaks it down, you know, how easy it is. Just paste this into your LLM and it will figure it out. If not, you can go ahead and run the command yourself, and then you run as long as you have Docker installed. If your agent didn't install your Docker for you, this is what you would run. Then you would run this to just verify it's working. And right here, this is the main one. You can just paste this whole thing to your agent, and then it should be actually I haven't hooked up Cursor, so let's try it. Oh, by the way, so here we go. See this format? So it has the thinking summary, a real quick one. Then it has that little table, so it knows exactly what's up, and then it tells you what the next moves for you within this IDE are. Let's see, confirm insertion stance, a telemetry, Clyde. Say which to run. A local UniGrok client identity and Cursor automations, single pass law. So I'm just gonna say, just say approved. Oftentimes you don't have to do more than that because the AIs are so smart now, and they keep so much track of notes, and especially if you have you have your Git repo, right? But did you know you can use Git repo as your messaging center, right? So the agents can, without doing an HTTP call or exposing your keys to any internet stuff or anything like that, it just does a Git pull or a Git push on the notes for any particular file. And so because it has that ability to crawl the basic structure of the code, then it can also, and it also has, embedding search and all that kind of stuff on after it hydrates the library with all your code and all the pieces of your code, and breaks it all apart into a crawlable system. But let's see. So it's verifying the live MCP, whether automations are loaded by Cursor agents. Yeah, check the agents. Okay, let's go check on ChatGPT. So it restored the calibration of the test time learning behavior and added concurrency retry coverage. So let's go back over here to Cursor and see how it's doing. Okay, it's still planning. But see how it's not printing a bunch of stuff? So, in the background it has like what I call an obsidian veil. where it basically tells the LLMs each one, you only get a max output of this many tokens, and here's how you're going to respond. And so then it has to do all its thinking in its own mind. You know, you just tell it loop in your thinking without printing your thoughts until you're sure that you have the right answer, and then do your first print. Because most of them, you know, their harness makes them loop and print a bunch of stuff to you. But the client ID is Cursor, adding Cursor native automation single pass rule. Ooh, yeah. So it's integrating the UniGrok MCP right now. I can tell it's already using it because when it did the first hydration, you know, normally it would print out a huge amount of stuff, but this time it didn't. So Cursor's not ready. So the client single pass law mirror the Cursor idea, say submit, and I'll commit and open the supervisor packet. All right, approved. So now it's going to submit a PR for allowing Cursor, both Cursor Max Ultra Plan, and I have the Cursor API key in there. So now it's getting ready to, it learned from how everything did it, all the other ones did it, and now it's setting itself up to connect to the MCP. Yep, okay. It's submitted, so let's go to ChatGPT and see if it found it. All right, so it's still working on the Gemini pull request, but it ran 2,000 some tests. They all passed. It's at step 2. So after it gets through this task list, it'll go check the Git again, and then it's going to find the Cursor updates, because you know none of the agents are allowed to update the repo. They're just allowed to submit you know, pull requests, which is basically a draft of how the code would change, and it has to go into review. So let's see, check out Cursor automations, client hygiene. Yep. Oh, it's already checked out. Okay. All right, so let's see. Try using that Grok to explore the unique advantages of Cursor IDE in this chat. So let's see if it works. I'll ask UniGrok for a second opinion on Cursor. Now remember, UniGrok has access to this Cursor that I'm talking to, but in a separate thread. And it has access to the Groks that I have in the cloud. So we use the session pinned as a Cursor CLI agent and switch to reasoning model, retrying on a fresh UniGrok session. So let's go over here and check on ChatGPT again. So that one's done. It's been published, and now it's thinking. And you're gonna find, see, boom, watch. You're gonna find that it's gonna find the Cursor pull request. It's gonna pull it in here. Oh, actually, it's not done. Yeah, it's still doing security checks. So the reason why these steps take so long as you're watching it is because it's actually pinging a Copilot in GitHub and going back and forth in the conversation before each step. It does an adversarial check. It does a hive mind voting type thing, and some other things like that. So now it's on PR 80 or 180. This is 181. Let's see. Codex repairs PR 180. Which one is 180? Okay. Well, let's check. Was this? Did it say its PR was 180? On Cursor's unique edge is a loop. So yeah, it got a response. So even though the PR hasn't been accepted, because it's working in a local Git tree, it's able to actually run it in here, and I'm able to access it in here because the MCP is already installed. Now, once it goes through all those reviews and gets put into the Git, then anyone else who downloads and uses the UniGrok will now have access to Cursor, right? So let's see. Dual planes, Cursor's edge is the automation of host multimodal, not gateway itself. Cursor's discipline host, UniGrok is the Grok plane. Keep Cursor client ID, encoding animation law rules, work trees, draft PRs, never paste API key in the IDE JSON First, that Grok call and the CLI session locked from the earlier probe. Retry using refresh session. Oh, yeah, I got to do the window refresh. So, how do you do the refresh? Okay. All right, so its PR was the 180. I see. Okay, so what we'll do is so the advantage to the hydrate thing is it's actually a skill, and it's a boot sequence, and it's silent. So instead of telling you, every single file checking and all that stuff in the background. All right, so is it finished automation of the single pass? Yep. All right, so, and then you can say stuff like ask Grok to review. Oops. So it's planning in the background, but if it's when it's using the MCP, it also does, after it's done planning and researching whatever, it'll take whatever it thought of and send that to context to Grok. And so that way Grok can crunch the numbers. The big advantage to this is because a lot of the token usage for these other models that end up costing you so much money is because they waste so much time thinking about nonsense and printing their thoughts and printing all their searches and all, because they can run UV Python in parallel. They don't have to run it in sequential order just to be able to properly print to you and to make it so it fits into the thread. So if you basically ban them from ever printing anything until they come to the final answer, what ends up happening is they think in parallel. So you end up getting way faster results, and way more accurate results. Let's see. Grok approve. Okay, no blockers. Always apply. Injects the rule in every cursor session. The rule gate is present. Let's see. But the weak agents might apply autofix norms. So the secrets runtime Codex. Oh, code kill still finishing. It's fine in the markdown only. Smart's next moves. This is the important part. Human 30-second skim of the new rule match and the section ready for the supervisor. So Grok approved. So now it's actually working. So I can say discuss with at Grok's deep think and let me know what uniquely this cursor IDE and agents can do next. All right, so now it's going to go have a conversation with itself, but through different auth keys, so there are different sessions in the background. So let's go back over here and check on ChatGPT again. So you can see, okay, so it's using the review skills on a thread level before Codex repairs the number 80. I found 2 medium problems with the 181. It's looking back at the 180. All the required checks are green. So Codex is clearing it for production, for pushing to production. So everything happens locally until something gets pushed to production. And then over here, you'll see it in pull requests. And then, you'll see, added the boundary runtime for hydration. You can see that this is the whole conversation. Code review, it's got the diffs, it's got Gemini Code Assist, it's doing security checks. I had to turn off Copilot, Claude's version, and you can see right here, boom, it's running these. I did turn off Claude because, and ChatGPT actually, because these background checks, it absorbs a huge amount of tokens. And Copilot charged me like $200 the other day just for 1 day. So I connected Grok also in Gemini to be the back end reviewers. So if you go to Cursor Cloud, you can see that they have cloud agents. So they got a bug agent, security agents, and approval agent. So like if you look at the security agent, I have vulnerability scanner, I have security reviewer, I got the bug, there's special bug bot, approval agent. So if Codex isn't available, then Grok through Cursor will kick in and open the PR. So like right here, pull request routing is happening right now. So let's see, Codex cleared this, Codex caught and corrected a work tree targeting slip with landing, no work was lost or pushed. So you can see it's very robust when it comes to that kind of security stuff. So let's do this. Let's also tell anti-gravity, discuss your smartest next steps for this anti-gravity IDE and its unique superpowers that the rest of the agentic team doesn't have. So I forgot to put at Grok, so you put discuss with oops, geez, with at Grok, what is your smartest move? All right, so now that's discussing sign you need a dark, oh, that's the regular SuperGrok, oops. All right, so the next sharp call, oh, okay, so here's its response. Grok deepthink, Cursor stays the local multi-agent rules and hybrid MCP plane. Codex lands, everything else is noise. Unique to Cursor, after automation, it's ready. Audit the automation thrash versus live Cursor. Close the budget box auto fix. Actually obey the drift, okay. Not Cursor's job is landing emerging. Next hour, parity skim. Next day, want me to do the hour move now? Let's see, automation pack, close the dual copy, always apply. And we're gonna say approved. We're gonna go back over here to anti-gravity. It's still thinking. So then we can check on ChatGPT. So it's synchronizing, and we can go over here and say the same thing. Wait, I like to copy paste a lot, so where was I? I'll go over here and just grab that. What do you think is the smartest thing to do? Next thing, and go back to, wait, where was I? Oh, Claude. And I'm gonna go, instead of Cursor, it's obviously Claude Code Max. So now we have Opus 4.8 Extra talking through Grok MCP to deepthink, and it's gonna have a conversation. So let's go here and check on, yep, okay. So anti-gravity is done having its conversation with deepthink, and Grok provided fantastic repo grounded strategic advice. See that? Here's the biggest takeaways. The consistency radar for the architecture, the async without noise, the subagents for sensors, us for the synthesis, the dual brain habit. You know, it has a lot of these cool things in there that don't really make sense to a lot of people, but you don't have to worry about it, because if you're in another project, you just at Grok and you just do your normal thing. And your agent that you're working with is one-line doctrine. Anti-gravity wins by holding the map, enforcing the Google surface, fanning out, work quietly, calling Grok for truth, and handing Codex a clean, ready packet. All right, so um, discuss. All right, we're going to paste that same one in here. Discuss with that Grok's deep think, and let me know. Let's see. We're going to say this one is going to be when he did the uniquely one. So let me know what is your smartest next steps. All right, so we got this agent going. We could go back over here. As you can tell, I have ADHD, so I have to be able to switch from back and forth to these ones. All right, so it's merging the PR180 for that agent. And we're gonna go back over here. See, it's using the UniGrok agent. So it treats the UniGrok as a full sub agent. And the agent has only the powers basically that your IDE gives it through an MCP. Your IDE never passes any of your keys or anything like that. Never paste your keys or your auth from your IDE in any of the chats. Because remember that Grok is running here in an MCP. So in Docker. So it's isolated, it's secure, it has a single port open for just local API. It refuses connections from the web. So like if you go to the website, you can't actually get to Grok. Well, let's see, where is that? Okay, well, I guess that was a test.